Hey guys, Jeremy Jacobowitz here. If you're new, welcome. If not new, welcome back. It's lovely seeing your beautiful faces. This is all about my food adventures all over the world, but today we're on a little bit of camera adventure for a series I like to call Influencer Secrets. In my hand right here is a Canon R5c. I promised you guys a follow-up on the video I did last week of just sort of like initial impressions and unboxing. Now I've spent a week with it and I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings, and I want to get them all across to you now. So let's do it. All right, so I don't want to rehash too many things that I spoke about last week, and that was a lot more of like why I bought this camera, going from the R5 that I'm filming with right here to this. But to quickly go over it, I'm someone that is obviously a content creator. I'm a hybrid shooter, a lot of photos, a lot of videos, but at the same time, I've been taking on a lot of more outside projects, and I wanted one, something that wouldn't overheat, and two, something that gave me more filmmaking options and tools as to try and build my career more up that way, just have more experience with it. That was sort of the point. I don't even know where to start. Let's start with the good. I don't want to start with the bad. Let's start with the good. It's an amazing camera. The footage you get out of this camera is stunningly beautiful and perfect and amazing. And it's been a really fun transition going from C-Log, which I was shooting on C-Log 3. I just didn't feel confident doing it before. I don't really know why. I think part of that was not having the proper tools in the camera to really be able to expose properly for it. Which I guess I kind of did, but I don't know. I got overwhelmed. It's scary to use different picture profiles. So then once I did it, I was like, oh wow, it's so much easier to grade, and you get a little bit. You do get a little bit more in the highlights to work with. So I would say yes, use C-Log 3. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I think like number one, if you were like me and you get this camera, the first thing you have to do is dig into the menus. Dig into the menus and just like don't stop going through the menu for like, I think the first 2 days, all I did is go through the menu. There are so many options, and I think it's really critical to dial in what options, one, you have to change, and two, just knowing what this camera can do. It could be very overwhelming. I even like tried to look at the manual, which like super didn't exist. So my advice is literally go through option after option after option after option, understand what this camera is able to do, and then you're going to be able to get the most out of it. Because if you don't understand what this camera does, there's absolutely no point to it. The other part of that too is you could basically reprogram every single button here. And I think like it's going to take you filming, knowing what buttons you want to hit, and then assigning them to everything. It's going to make the workflow better. It's going to make everything better. That is the point of having this cinema camera. Now, speaking of the new exposure tools that you have, since this now has Canon's more cinema line menu system and stuff like that. I went back on all three of them, of waveform, of zebra, of colors. I did find that the waveform was the easiest for me. One thing about that though is that it is so tiny. The waveform window on your LCD is tiny. I'm like squinting looking like this because I'm filming myself, squinting looking like this, and I'm like, I think it's right, but with the dynamic range you have, as long as you get close, you should be okay. I will say, like C-Log I had been shooting with on my R5, it's probably best to overexpose a little bit. I find that if you overexpose a little bit under, you're gonna lose a lot when you try and bring those shadows up. Where if you overexpose a little bit, or I mean, you could literally overexpose 2 stops on this and pull it down super, super easily in post. I highly recommend overexposing. It will save you. The other thing I would recommend is there's an option when you do waveform to have a spot in the middle of it, a red spot. And since I'm really filming myself and everything's sort of framed up with the middle of the shot being what I'm filming, that put a nice little red mark of where I want the exposure to be in the waveform. It made it a lot easier to read. It made it a lot easier to expose for. I would absolutely do that. So I ran comparisons all week. I wanted to see like what the picture really would look like between the R5 and the R5c. It really should look basically similar depending on the colors, but I just want to see anyway. So I ran a little test here of the R5c, the C-Log 3, compared versus the R5 C-Log, because that was just comparing. I wanted to compare, I know it's not really apples to oranges, but I want to say what I was shooting before and what I'm shooting now. And then I want to look at the C-Log 3 on the R5, and then just look at the standard out-of-camera Rec 709 out of both, just to compare. I think color-wise, I colored this really quickly, so don't go by that. I think they're basically exactly the same, which is a good thing. They look the same, they act the same. I think the differences you're really just seeing are just the different color profiles are going from CLEC to CLEC 3. But saying that, I do like that I'm able to lock in more accurate white balance on the R5c. That's really, really nice. So what are the negatives then? Okay, so I know this has been spoken about a lot, but the battery life is not great. Here's what I did. I bought this Anchor battery. I will link it in the description below. It's maybe 130 bucks on Amazon. It's a heavy duty bad boy, but as I was filming in my kitchen here, I just plugged in USB-C and it should add like hours to the camera battery life. Now, I shoot everything 4K, 24 frames per second. So I was getting maybe 45 minutes to an hour of footage out of the battery, which like is fine, but not great. And I have extra batteries. It's not great. Let's just say that. It's not great, but there are workarounds to it. But the other side of that is that there's no overheating anymore. Now, again, I never super ran into that when I was just filming my own sort of social media content stuff on my R5. But every time I took an outside project, the camera would overheat, and it's just embarrassing on set. You can't have that happen in a professional sense. This is a much more professional camera. And those videos a little bit all over the place. My mind goes crazy when I talk about this stuff, so hopefully we're making sense. One more really nice thing is I really like all the different 4 audio channels that I have. Here, I always have the Rode wireless mic going right now, and it has just the 2 audio channels. There's no backup in case this dies. We're here because it's 4 audio channels. Even when I'm recording whatever I'm using for the input, it's still always recording here. It's not great audio, but at least it's some option. It's nice to have. Okay, so here are the things I want to see improved. And these are things that I absolutely can see being improved just by firmware updates. I believe, I think, I know it should be. One, the screen isn't small at all. The same exact screen as the one on the R5, but I do find the cinema menu, everything is so tiny. I can't see them. I can't goddamn see anything. Larger font would be nice. A larger waveform when I'm filming would be really nice. I can't even when I'm trying to use touchscreen, I find that because everything's so much smaller, I literally can't hit any of the buttons. So maybe a different option there to have some bigger font, that would be tremendously helpful. To the battery, I do think that the battery life could be improved with the firmware update. Not a huge amount, but there are definitely ways to fix this post-launch. And I think we'll see incremental improvements, honestly. Hopefully something. Oh, and now the whole other thing about IBIS, not IBIS. Oh man, went back and forth on this. I think like when I was filming other people and I was able to really like strap it on myself and hold it, it was fine. I have a pretty steady hand. I have a stabilized lens. It really was fine. When I tried to go like this and vlog, yeah, I noticed it. But at the same time, when you do that with IBIS, you get the little woo 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 on the sides. And now is that more annoying than just a stabilizer? And I hate the digital stabilization. I just think it doesn't do a good job and it crops in. I don't want to do it. So there's no really great solution there. But just so you know, and I think it's honestly fine. And then there's lots of little things that I think I just have to get used to, but I found annoying. One, going from a camera that's really photo first, I found that always the shutter button is like half shutter, you could focus or like go back to menu. It really was used for everything. You can't do that. So I keep hitting it thinking I'm doing stuff and then I'm recording and then I'm like, oh shit, no, let me do that. So maybe there's a way to get a half button press on there, like in the options, so I could have half button do the same thing. Autofocus 2 works really well. It's not as good of an autofocus as the R5. It's not there yet. I don't trust it yet. It's still great. It's Canon autofocus, but I see it. There's not as many options. I just feel it. And that could also be accomplished with firmware updates. I really hope that happens. And then I think this can't be fixed with firmware, but the switch to go back and forth, I find that I can't ever get it in the off position. I'm doing it right now. I'm trying to put it in the off and just the click doesn't ever go off. It's really hard. So maybe it's something they could work on. But saying that, the time it takes to go from photo to the video is annoying. It's annoying. It's like 6 seconds, but it is annoying. Where I know on my R5, I go click, boom, shooting video, click, boom, shooting photos. They got to be able to update that. I don't really understand why it takes so long. That, again, is something I really believe they could update and fix. So hopefully. So what is the final conclusion here? Should I keep it? Should you buy it? What's the answer? Whew. I think this. I think, yes, this is still a hybrid camera. You can still do photos. But if you are even 51% more taking photos than videos, I would stick with the R5. I would. Even though the photos are just as good, I think that the annoyance of going back and forth and not having all the tools is going to annoy you more. Save the money, get the R5. If you're more just a content creator, just doing your own thing, running gun on your own, get the R5. Get the R5. You could control the workflow. You could have an extra battery on you. You could trust the autofocus. You could see the buttons better. It's going to be way better as a one-man band. Now, I got it for my bigger projects outside of what I do social media, when I'm on sets, when I'm working with other people. If you're that, and maybe you again you're not quite confident to jump up to the cinema line, or don't have the money to jump up to the cinema line, but want more cinema tools, this is perfect. I mean, this is an amazing, amazing camera. And I think that the downsides of it, you could overcome really quickly if you're going to be on set and really use it. I think, honestly, what this camera really needs is to build up a little rig. Build up a rig so you could connect the anchor battery to it. Build up the rig so you could put an external monitor on it. Like, all these tools to really make it a more professional camera is what this is built for, and you would get way more out of it that way. Those are probably my next steps, to be honest. And then also, like, again, like when I'm filming myself, I was nervous about the autofocus. When I'm filming other people, I don't have to worry about that. So I think, yes, if you're looking for this for outside projects, to step up your game in any way, I think this is wonderful. If you're just looking to film stuff by yourself really quickly, stick with the R5. But I'm going to stick with both of them, because I think what I'll do is I want to keep filming this as much as I can at the beginning, just so I can really get used to it, but probably use this more just for outside projects, and more run and gun, running around my own, stick with the R5. But I hope this video helps. That was a long, long rant. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Any other questions I can answer for you, let me know. Subscribe, because I eat a lot of food and talk about cameras a lot, so that's cool too.